It has been a crazy past few weeks. Really, we have a front row seat to history. We have seen the assassination attempt of a former president, the rightful president, the future president, Donald Trump, who survived a bullet to the head by merely 1/4 of an inch. He picked his VP. We saw Biden now drop out of the race and then endorsed Kamala Harris, who is probably still unburdened by what has been or what can be or what will be done, whatever the nonsensical quote is. But we're witnessing history in real time. Today's guest, where I just mentioned a lot of things that sound grim and dooming and looming. Today's guest and today's story is a story of hope. It is a victory coming out of the state of California, which is definitely never a given. We are talking to Father Harrison Tinsley. This is a father. He has a son who is 4.5 years old by the name of Sawyer. And he just won full custody of his son. Won full custody from what? From a mom who was trying to push the gender ideology movement on this 4-year-old boy, identifying him as non-binary, making him wear dresses, really tragic stuff. But again, this is a winning story. I cannot wait for you to hear the details of what Harrison, what his family, what Sawyer has faced at the hands of the California education system, at the hands of CPS, at the hands of the court in California. California is, of course, a battleground. We have seen some recent news come out of California surrounding an Assembly Bill, AB 1955. Some of you might have seen on X, where Elon Musk said he is removing his businesses from the state of California, taking them and his money to Texas, which is huge because of this bill and stories like Harrison Tinsley's in particular. Check out the interview here to hear from Harrison Tinsley about his family, what he's had to endure, and what AB 1955 really is. Well, Harrison, thank you so much for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. I have been excited to talk with you for a while. You and I have been in communication for, several months now, in learning about your story, but recently we got to get reconnected, and hear of a victory. That is what today's story is. It is one of hope, and it is one of blessings, and it's a win. But before we get into any of that, would you share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you found yourself with the platform that you have?
My name is Harrison Tinsley. I'm 32 years old. I grew up in the Bay Area, California. Just grew up like a normal guy, not too political or anything, playing sports and extreme sports and causing mayhem. And when I became a dad, well, I always really wanted to be a dad. I always knew that in my heart. I have a family, but when I became a dad, it became abundantly clear that that's the most amazing, important thing in this world. And so after that happened, I just made it my mission to do anything I can for my fight for him. And then seeing some of the crazy stuff that's happening in California to fight for all children. So important. They're innocent, they're wonderful, and they need to be protected.
No doubt about that. You mentioned California, you mentioned the Bay Area. This is a battleground. The state of California, it is a battleground for parental rights. It's a battleground for the safeguarding of children. It's a battleground for women's rights, the issues that I spend a lot of my time talking about. So no doubt about that. I kind of want to get into your story a little bit. You have a son, and he's your typical boy, right? Hockey, I think I read he plays football. He's young, but take us through what you and your family went through, what you faced in your personal lives, but also in the court systems and where it has led you to now.
I have a son named Sawyer. He's 4.5 years old. He's amazing. Total man's man. He loves all the sports, riding bikes and scooters, and he does jujitsu. He loves fireworks. And I just think it's really sad that anyone would try to change, who he is as a person when he's so happy being a boy. You say anything to the contrary or give him anything girly, he'll scream at you. He's not about it at all. And I just think it's so crazy that people push these ideas and confuse children that have no interest in anything about sex or sexual identity or whatever craziness they try putting on kids. But My story is I was dating a girl in the Bay Area. We fell in love. Things were normal, and she had some mental health issues, but I always just thought I'd, stick with her through it. And she got pregnant pretty quickly in our relationship. And thankfully, she wanted to keep it. We were both stoked when we found out it was a boy, and we agreed upon the name Sawyer even. And as her pregnancy went on, it was kind of seemed like a political battle almost. I can't speak for her, but it really felt that because our political differences, that I was just being constantly threatened, that I wouldn't see Sawyer as this or that political things, and me not being interested in the Women's March and things like that. And it got to a point where she broke up with me, sent me a cease and desist letter, which I respected. So I didn't find out Sawyer was foreign until about a week after, one of her friends on social media. And I filed in court 2 months later to establish custody, visitation, and paternity. And then COVID happened, and it took 13 more months just for me to meet him. So I finally met him at 15 months old, in spite of knowing the whole time since pregnancy and filing in court just 2 months after birth. And that was obviously heartbreaking, travesty. I don't know what to say about it other than it hurt, and it made me stronger and become a better, stronger man to take on, whatever this world entails for me, including fighting for him and for all children. And so I started to visit with him, and there were some weird things that happened in some of the visits. It just seemed like everything was always a battle to try to prove I'm doing something wrong, finding cameras recording me and all these people hiding in the bushes watching me and all this weird stuff. But I just pressed on, did my visit, sucked it up. And then I moved to the Bay Area a few months later, and I was awarded half custody, immediately, which was incredible. Super thankful for that. And so I started my half custody, and that's around the time that I'm binary and calling in that. Some pictures of him in some girly clothes, dresses. I don't know how many months later, he told me a story about going to Disneyland and how he says his mom wouldn't let him go on the rides unless he wore his princess shoes, and he didn't want to wear princess shoes. So that was a really disheartening thing to hear. But, I just told him the truth. You're a boy, you'll always be a boy. And I'm sorry that anyone would, try to take that from you. But he didn't buy into it at all. He was really against it from the get-go. His mom did some pretty severe defamation and harassment of me online, etc., regarding, Sawyer, and just pretty horrific lies about me. It's sort of like Brett Kavanaugh, Johnny Depp kind of stuff. To put it in perspective without getting too specific, that was a really hard thing to deal with. Just, somebody that you used to love to say such heinous things about you that are completely untrue. But thankfully I was able to dispel all of those in court. I had 5 of my ex-girlfriends from high school on testify for me, which I'm extremely thankful to all of them. It's a hard thing to reach out to someone you haven't talked to in years, but, used to be dating, and ask for something that big, and they all did that. So thankful. It's just incredible. And let's see. So around this time, a few months later, after winning half custody, his mom was arrested for a child endangerment, placed on a 5150 hold. There was a CPS investigation. So I ended up bringing all this to court. And I got a restraining order, temporary restraining order, because of the harassment and defamation of me was so severe and so untrue. So I brought all of that to court, and I got a trial in family court, which is, I'm super lucky. Ended up getting a 5-day trial, and most people get 30 minutes, and that's all you get. So I was super lucky and thankful for that. But I presented all this evidence and police reports, and the restraining order had been violated. She was treating him non-binary. He doesn't like it, and all these things. And I felt so good about the trial. It seemed so one-sided. And afterwards, the court decided we're going to keep custody 50-50. And that was, pretty devastating to hear. I felt helpless for a second. And I was definitely also completely out of money. Attorneys and stuff are so expensive in family court. And I ended up deciding I was just going to go public and sort of tell the world, my story, because I thought, people should know this, and I didn't want to feel like I was the only one dealing with it. And so I I'm thankful to Daily Wire who wrote my story, Matt Walsh. And I know after that happened, it just seemed like my story started taking off, and then became part of like Dad Army and Our Duty, all these parent groups, and finding out I'm not alone, and started fighting some of these crazy anti-parent in California and fighting this nonsense in general. And it's just been amazing to be part of that sort of purpose of fighting for children and fighting that matters. And that's be courageous in your life, and the world opens up to you in so many ways. And it's just crazy. I mean, I've met some of the most wonderful people that are so supportive, and they really mean it too. Just incredible people, incredible movement. You know, we need to protect kids and save women's sports. I mean, I admire what you do so much. You're so courageous speaking up about it. And I'm just thankful to be a part of it. So I do all these interviews. I pretty much did every interview I was ever offered. I was thankful or lucky enough to be part of a couple movies like The War on Children. And my appeal's still going. So we're hoping to win that, just sort of on principle. But we fast forward a little. There's some tiny little family court battles that are sort of irrelevant, but it ends up being that I get a call one day to pick up Sawyer because his mom's been arrested, and I went and picked him up. And there was a whole police report and CPS investigation, and they told me what happened, and it was a really scary situation that Sawyer had to witness. His mom had gotten in a fight with her dad. One of her dads, she was adopted, she has two dads, and she got in a fight with one of them, a really physical, scary altercation, where she had like broken his nose even, and there were like really, really severe physical violence for a 4-year-old to see. I guess he sort of snuck up, you know, to see what was happening. He was hiding at first because I'm sure it was scary sounding. And he snuck up like with this little kid's plastic baseball bat, something similar to that. And according to him, his mom said, you know, hit him in the face. So he had to like hit his own grandpa in the face at the instruction of his mom, which is just like such a not okay thing for a 4-year-old to have to go through. And the mom claims that he just did it on his own and she didn't instruct him. I don't know what the truth is. I tend to believe Sawyer, but it happened. And you know, read the whole police report and CPS report, and there's even photo evidence of a kid's baseball bat with blood on it. So it's really horrible that he had to go through that. I mean, it's just crazy because I tried telling the court and CPS and everything for so long that, you know, this sort of thing's going to happen if they don't give me custody, and no one listens. And then it takes something so severe. But thankfully, after this incident, the CPS did take it seriously. The family court did not. I filed an ex parte the very next day, and they denied it, which was very surprising. And me and my attorney's opinion, they pretty much had to grant this ex parte on a temporary basis, which is a request for an immediate emergency custody orders. And they denied it, but CPS said, that's okay. We're not going to put up with that. You know, CPS took custody temporarily, gave me full custody, and they did about a 4-month investigation. Very thorough, did their jobs. They weren't political. The first CPS report, I felt like politics didn't matter almost, but this one, they just did their job. They put politics aside. Felt like it was a miracle. I got a really kind male CPS worker who really just cared about doing the right thing and what's best for Sawyer. And at the end of it, you know, his recommendation was to give full physical and legal custody to me. And so I was in agreement with that, and Sawyer's appointed counsel was in agreement with that. So it was just us three versus the mom and her attorney, and we ended up settling right before the trial so that I have full physical custody. We have split legal custody, but I have the final say if we don't agree, which is very important. And she has some drug and alcohol testing and a couple of visits, and those visits are monitored. And her visits for the 4 months prior to that were all supervised professionally, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, so we came up with a good deal, and even to Mom's credit, she agreed to these terms. So now I think that things are looking really good for Sawyer, and even in just this 4 months or however long it's been now, that I've had him full time is just doing so well. He's just flourishing, less temper tantrums, and he just seems to be doing so well. It's just incredible. I'm so thankful to CPS for, doing the right thing and just doing their job and putting politics aside.
Well, no doubt about that. It's not always, actually, I would say it's fairly uncommon, based off of experiences of others, people that I have heard from, where CPS is effective in what they do in a way that benefits the child, in a way that is, I guess, represents what is good, represents you as a parent. It's tragic. It is actually horrific that it takes instances like that. It takes Sawyer seeing the harm and the severity that he saw to ultimately come to a good conclusion. But again, that's the sad reality of it. A couple things I noticed in allowing you to tell your story and what you said. I can't imagine having a child, having a son, and not being able to see him until he's already a year old. I mean, that's a year of, he's 4 years old. That's a quarter of his life. The most critical, impressionable age where a father wasn't able to see his son. I loved that you told him, or that you said, look, I just told him the truth, that he's a boy. It's really that simple. You just told him the truth. I think that's incredible. Did you ever find out, I guess, mom's motives, or really the motive of anyone? I mean, what's your best guess here as to why mom or anyone would push this kind of agenda on children as young as 3-4 years old?
Well, she has some pretty severe mental health issues that could play into it, but as well, she actually identifies herself now as non-binary. So I think that could, be projecting onto him as well, or trying to. And I think a lot of people get caught up in this sort of wanting their kids to be part of it so that they can have some sort of social media hierarchy, or, look compassionate or look like they're special because their kid has this thing. And it's just that. And I, of course, don't know. Can't speak for her, but either way, it's unacceptable. And thank God Sawyer hasn't bought into it in any way, shape, or form. And he has me and my lovely wife now, and all my family and friends, and just telling them the truth and letting him be happy with who he is. That cannot be changed. Can't stress that enough. We can't change people's sex. And the whole idea is just crazy. It's gone on long enough. And it's time where we just say no more. You are weirdos, you're groomers, you're crazy people. We're not letting you put sexual ideas and be inappropriate with kids, brainwash our kids. The time in history to stop it's right now. Everyone knows it's wrong. I live in the Bay Area. I don't know any parents or people that go along with this or agree with it in any way. I haven't met any. And I don't know what Gavin Newsom and people like that, or Scott Wiener, are doing, signing bills like AB 1955 to try to take away parental rights and take away our only way of even being involved in the school, basically taking away like a school board's rights and mandate something. They basically took that away with that bill. They're just trying to take our kids from us, and it's demented, it's evil, and we need more people to speak up like you and me. We have to stop it. Kids deserve to be protected. The time's now. This is the moment in history.
Harrison, I was so appalled where recently we saw videos circulating of San Francisco, the streets of San Francisco, and the Pride events that were taking place there. It was all over my timeline, on every social media platform, on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere. I couldn't even retweet. I couldn't even amplify these things because it was quite literally pornographic. You saw men giving sexual oral favors to other men on the streets, of course, like naked. You saw men who were urinating on people. They had like a little kiddie pool that was set out in the middle of the street. People who would take turns sitting in the pool, take turns being urinated on. All the while, the police were standing idly by, just watching. Kids are running around. Kids are everywhere. I saw a video where I think it was some sort of journalist or just a bystander approached the police and said, hey, isn't this some form of like voyeurism or indecent exposure to have people naked and performing sexual acts in the public streets of San Francisco? To which the police responded back with, well, no, because no one is being sexually gratified. That is what the police said. Again, all to just kind of to hit home that this is happening. Of course, we know it's happening in California, but this is happening all around us, which is why it's so crucial we have people like yourself who live in these battleground areas who are willing to push back. Because if you don't, then who in the world will? One other thing I noticed about what you said, you mentioned a couple times, this feeling of helplessness, not really knowing how to continue on or if you would ever really persevere in this fight. And so I guess my question to you is, then why continue? What was your motivating factor that allowed you to see this through to the end?
Well, first of all, that's sick and demented that was happening at Pride. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's insane. That blows my mind. I don't know how anyone thinks that's okay to do in front of children. I think that we need some serious reform on what's illegal in front of children. I really think that's horrific and that needs to be stopped entirely. How do we put up with that? Like, we're adults in charge of protecting kids and their innocence, and why would we let something like that happen? I mean, just like how, if you were walking down the street with your kid, you would never be okay with that. It seems so radical and extreme. And to touch on the Elon Musk thing, I think Elon Musk is an American hero and will go down as one. I mean, from buying Twitter X to, moving Tesla and SpaceX, I really think he's just done our country a great service. And I'm so thankful for someone like him. He's actually, I think, liked or retweeted my story before, so I know he's aware of it. And it's so cool to see someone with so much influence and power and, just care so much about regular people. Because I'm sure he could just live his life and not worry about what's happening with regular people like us, but he does care, and that means something. And AB 1955, these sorts of bills, I don't know who they're catering to because no one agrees with them. For the most part, I'm sure there's radicals in ASAC that do, but there's also 665 and 223 passed some bad bills. He did veto 957 last year, which I fought against, which I was super thankful for. But these anti-parent bills need to stop. They definitely have Marxist roots, whether that's intentional or not. That's still what it is, separating children from families. And I think we're going to see a great comeback of California. It really feels that way to me. I feel the momentum. I feel like the tide's turning, and I really feel that people are ready to start speaking up and stop putting up with this child abuse and child craziness, protect their children. As far as I go, I mean, I'm Mr. Brightside. I always hop in. I'm like a hopeless optimist, and no matter what happens, I always try to find the one way out, whether it's a 1% chance, I'll take it. And I always just try to do the right thing and see the best in people and best possible scenario happening and the fight for that. And I believe in that. And just no matter what you do to me or say to me, it's never going to stop me from loving Sawyer and protecting Sawyer and from doing the right thing and fighting for kids and protecting girls, like you or my sisters or my nieces. Like, it's unacceptable to have guys in girls' locker rooms, just like we were talking about the Pride stuff. This is no different. It's like even more personal. It's totally insane. And we need brave people to start speaking up, and more people will follow. Like, this is insanity. You people are sick. You should be ostracized from society. And we're not just going to pretend it's normal anymore and just live our lives and pretend it's not happening. It is happening. It's wrong. We're going to fight you to the bitter end, no matter what it takes. And you have to be brave. You have to speak the truth. That's what we need right now. And that's what I've always found the way to do in my life.
Well, we're grateful for it. And I believe stories like yours, like I said, Elon Musk said that AB 1955 and other stories and laws that have preceded it definitely contributed to his willingness to remove himself and his money, which is quite frankly what matters to California government, to remove that from the state of California. So you're largely to thank your willingness to be outspoken. You mentioned you're not alone either. Have you talked to other parents across the country who have faced a similar tragic reality to that of what you faced? Parents who have been taken to court for affirming their child's God-given sex. Parents who have even some, I've read some accounts of parents who have not had the same outcome that you have had, and ultimately have had their children removed from their houses. So have you talked to other parents? What's the consensus there?
Well, I like how you said confirmed, because it's interesting. When I was fighting at the Capitol, I've actually met Scott Wiener and spoken in front of this little council a few times. And I was talking about AB 957. I was like, well, I'm going to use this bill and be the first person to win custody because I'm the one affirming Sawyer's gender because he says he's a boy. So if his mom's saying he's non-binary, that's not affirming his gender, which means this bill should give me custody. Scott Wiener doesn't seem to like me. He won't talk to me the time since that I've tried to say hi to him. And I've been nice too. I'm like, Scott. And he just won't even say hi. He'll have his security not let me talk to him.
You're way too logical for Scott Wiener.
Yeah. I just don't get what motivates him though. It just seems so weird. Something deeply wrong. But yeah, I've met a lot of fit parents, and unfortunately some of them have it much, much worse than me. There's Adam Vina, Jeff Younger. We need to save their boys. They're having a really hard time in court and seem to be getting really unfair trials. But yeah, I'm part of Data Army and Our Duty, and I've met so many parents dealing with these sorts of things and CPS things, and I always try to talk to everyone because they seem, so inspired by the fact that I won, or even have half custody at the time too. Some people aren't even that lucky just because of this crazy gender nonsense. But yeah, I just do my best to inspire them, tell them what I did, and hopefully lift their spirits to keep fighting, because we have to fight. There's always a chance, no matter how slim it seems. You can't do nothing. It's your child. Even if you fail, at least if you try your hardest, you'll be able to look back and know you tried your hardest, but you can't just do nothing. You have to fight.
Has Sawyer seen his mom since you have been awarded full custody?
Yeah, so, he saw her, supervised, and then now he sees her monitored, meaning a friend or someone's there for the visit. But she sees him regularly, yeah.
Well, that's
not
good.
Overnights or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I commend you on your how you've handled this situation from beginning to end, which I'm sure this isn't really the end, right? I'm sure that you will continue to face pushback. It seems as if the road has not been paved before you, but how you have handled it thus far is admirable in your optimism, in the way that you have had grace for those who have objectively done wrong by you, but more importantly, done wrong to Sawyer. I think it's admirable and incredibly respectable. How can we support you and your family? You mentioned you are now newly married. How can we support you guys?
Well, thank you for saying that. It means a lot. I do my best. I really think Sawyer's mom has lots of good qualities. She's a human being. I think the line between good and evil cuts through everyone's heart, and hopefully she can start to make better decisions and battle through her mental illness, etc. And same with anyone who's, going through this, that God can get to them, or just they can have some sort of spiritual awakening to sort of see the truth and do right. But my family, it's incredible. I'd actually love to tell you the story because it adds even more sort of hope from all of this. But, I have a Give, Send, Go. It's a Give, Send, Go Saving Sawyer. We still have our appeal going. Unfortunately, like you were saying, there's potential that, his mom can file a family court anytime she wants to try to change things and make things more difficult for me. Thankfully, this order from the whole CPS thing is a little bit more final than all the other ones. So it gives me a little more protection, but still, any day I could get served with a new request for order, so to speak, to change custody. So hopefully that doesn't happen. We'll see how it goes. But so like I was telling you, my story blew up. I was doing all these interviews, right? And I'm in Arizona. I'm never in Arizona. And I'm doing an interview with Charlie Kirk, who's someone I admire and respect. So already that's like crazy. I'm like, I'm just some guy. I'm interviewing with Charlie Kirk right now. This is so crazy. I was interviewing with Alex Clark the next day, who's also awesome. And I was in Arizona and I interviewed with Charlie, and then I was just sort of hanging around Turning Point USA. I had nothing to do for the day. I was hanging out with the film guys because I'm friends with them. I've done some movie work with them and stuff. And I saw this beautiful, girl, and I flipped my hair, and she always reminds me of that. And I opened her door and I walked in her office, and it was just like miracle frequency everywhere, just magic in the air. Like, just felt like something so profound and special even being near her. And I talked to her. I told her she's incredibly beautiful, and we ended up just like talking and laughing for like an hour. And we talked the next day for like about an hour. And then it ended up, she was in California 2 weeks later, and I took her on a date, and a date the next day, and the rest is history. And she's the love of my life, and we're married. And it's just so incredible and divine that we met at that time. There was so much potential for us not to meet that day. I won't get into specifics, but there was a lot of things that happened. Like, my interview had been rescheduled, and I could have just totally missed her. And she's just the love of my life, and I'm so thankful. It's just so cool. And it's just, it goes to show, like, look, I was doing interviews with all of this, and somehow I met my wife just by random chance in Arizona, by, having the courage to speak up.
It's crazy how God uses unfortunate circumstances. I mean, circumstances that no one should have to go through, to open doors and to allow for goodness, even in the days that seem like nothing good could come from them. So God bless you. God bless your family. Again, this is a story that should leave everyone smiling. It's a roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure. But the outcome, you with full custody of Sawyer, happily married, staying in California, in the Bay Area, nonetheless, to continue fighting the good fight, where a lot of people are ridding themselves of that. People coming from California to my home state of Tennessee. We're building up a border around our state now. We don't want you guys here. I'm just kidding, Harrison. You and Sawyer and your beautiful wife can come, but after that,
I love Tennessee.
It's but really, we appreciate you. So thank you for coming on, and we will be following along anything that we can do to amplify and to continue throwing our support at you and families like yours, who have been unfairly faced with what you've been faced with. We will certainly be doing just that. So thank you.
Thank you, Riley. God bless you. And I just so appreciate you taking the time to have me on and speak my story. Hopefully it inspires some people. And we're going to win this war on children. It's coming to an end. So people should really start to think what side of history they want to be on. I know that's kind of a cliche term, but it's true. And it's coming. It's coming soon.
And it's never been on the wrong side of history to defend children. So
exactly.
I know where I'll be. And I think it's right there with you. So thank you, Harrison.
Yep. Thanks, Riley.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Gains for Girls podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe anywhere where you get your podcast. Leave us a review. You can check us out at OutKick.com or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Again, anywhere where you get your podcasts. Be sure to check out the Give, Send, Go for Harrison Tinsley and his family. He mentioned that fighting this battle in the courts has taken a big toll, both emotionally. It has taken a toll financially. So be sure to support him if that is something that you feel called to do, if that is something that you can do. But again, we thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week on the Gains for Girls podcast. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. The fight to save women's sports and restore common sense is far from over, and I continue the conversation every week. So make sure to catch more content over here and subscribe to OutKick so you don't miss a thing.